We said yesterday it's hard to sweep a doubleheader. It's even harder to sweep a whole series, even against a bad team. Dodgers swept that series against a bad team with a big offensive boom, a great inning, whole lot of contributors, so much to talk about in this game. So let's get live on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, or in this case, a weekday afternoon. Especially thanks to those of you who are live with us. The Dodgers had a day game, so we have a day episode. I guess it's evening now, but whatever it is, wherever you are, we're glad you're with us. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. My co-host next to me, that's Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. And coast to coast is what the Dodgers are doing tonight. They are leaving the East Coast, hopping on a plane to head back home. And it's going to be a happy flight for the Dodgers, Vince, because they exploded for a 6-run 8th inning to win 10-3 against the Mets to finish a sweep of this series, salvage a split of their road trip that started disastrously. So all in all, after getting swept by the Reds, you couldn't ask for much more than what the Dodgers did the last 2 days.
And before the Dodgers left on this road trip, we were talking about being 7-6 in the last 13 games. And then the Dodgers go 3-3. So, they're still positive for the last 19 games or, so yeah, but, great to get the sweep, great to put up runs, great, a little bit of a weird pitching plan that we'll get into, but it all worked out. The Dodgers won. They, scored a bunch of runs. They hit home runs, which, as much as the home run debate of what this team can do, it's a lot better when the team does hit home runs than when they don't. And to sprinkle that in with a little bit of, the Mets being bad is just always going to be that nice little sprinkle on top of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is a game that there were so many contributors. It's a good thing we have a whole half hour to talk about it. We will spend, like you said, in the third segment, we're going to talk about the James Paxton pitching decision and the thoughts that went into that. Second segment, we're going to focus strictly on people named Miguel, because Miguel Rojas and Miguel Vargas both had big games for the Dodgers and are kind of making a case for more playing time. So we're going to spend the second segment on those. This first segment, though, the other guys who contribute, the little names, guys like Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, even Jason Heyward got in on the act, even though he didn't start the game. Like Shohei Ohtani, after he went 0 for 5 in the first game of the doubleheader yesterday, and then didn't play in the second game. And today he didn't look great, but you know what? A not great game from Shohei Ohtani sometimes looks like a RBI single and a 2-run homer. And that's the thing about Shohei Ohtani is he doesn't have to look great to make a big impact, because one swing here and there can really change a game.
Yeah, and I saw a tweet, I don't remember from who, asking the question about Ohtani and pulling the ball since the injury. And, he didn't, the two hits that the hits that he had, the RBI single and the home run, weren't necessarily pulls. He was, up for the homer, up a little bit more up the middle for the RBI single. So that is something that's interesting. And, the whole dynamic of him working around this injury is interesting. But again, there's a reason why you still keep him in the lineup, even though he's not 100%. And this game is one of those reasons why, because he can still do things a lot better than anyone else on the roster can sometimes.
Yeah. When you are the most talented player on the planet, it's going to take a lot more than a bruised hamstring to keep you out of the lineup permanently, or at least consistently. He will get a little more time off, little breaks here and there, but all in all, yeah, Shohei Ohtani in the lineup is a good thing for the Dodgers. Another guy, Will Smith, hit 2 different home runs that gave the Dodgers the lead in this game. He started the scoring with the solo homer in the second inning, leading off the second inning to put the Dodgers up 1-0. And then after the pitching debacle that we'll talk about in the third segment. Dodgers and Mets tied 3-3. Smith again hit a solo home run to put the Dodgers up 4-3. That kicked off the score. I think they were both leading off the inning too. Was Smith leading off the? I think he was. Yeah, that's right. Because Shohei and Freddie made the last 2 outs of the 7th inning. So Smith leads off 2 different innings with go-ahead home runs. The one in the 8th inning kicked off a 6-run inning that saw almost everybody contribute. In the end, in this game, Freddie Freeman was the only guy who didn't get on base. Not going to read too much into one game. It's still, even if you add up this whole series, he still had a really good series, even with the bad game today. And everybody else picked him up. But Will Smith, this is 3 home runs in 2 days. This is, he's up to 9, either 9 or 10 on the year now. I know I saw a 9 after one of the home. I think it was the second one. I think he's at 9 now. And Smith, the big concern early in the season when he is batting like 380, but he didn't have much power. And obviously the batting average has dropped down, but if the power's coming back, if we can find a happy medium, because if he can bat 300 with 25 homers as a catcher, that's elite, one of the best players in baseball level.
Yeah. And for Smith, it's one of those where he'd been struggling in a different way than we might expect. He started off so hot with the average, and on the season hitting 296, but over the last 30 games hitting 257. But that's still with an OPS that is over 900. So he's still been hitting well, just not those 4-hit games have kind of been rare. And compared to the rest of the lineup, he obviously still looks good. But this is when Will Smith brings the power as well as the way he hits the ball, then it's just an added dynamic to this offense because you are getting a run. It's Will Smith bats a lot in that first inning, and obviously there's always at least one runner on when he does do that. But if it's a runner on first, he has to hit a double in order for a chance to score. And if he does come up to start off an inning, then a home run is automatic guaranteed run. So this is all obvious to say that, Will Smith hitting home runs is good, but I do think having that power right there is, huge for the Dodgers, especially when they are struggling and especially when he had been, scuffling just a little bit. So it's good for the Dodgers. And the annoying part is that it accentuates the fact when he does have to take a day off because the drop off from him to Barnes is just so bad. And there's nobody else you can put in the lineup right now, like in a different spot to kind of, outbalance that. So it's tough, but when he is in there, we'll enjoy it. And, that's all we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. BC points out I was wrong. Freddie did walk in that 8th inning. The at bat that got interrupted by the ejection. That's why I forgot. I know they were talking at the beginning of that at bat about how Freddie was the only guy at that point who hadn't been on base. And then it took 15 minutes for him to get walked because he had to wait for a new pitcher to warm up. But yeah, so everybody got on base. Everybody contributed. Jason Heyward didn't start the game, came in once the right-handed relievers were in, hit a triple off the right-handed reliever, and then hit a homer off the left-handed reliever. So I think I saw he's only the 3rd Dodger in history to have a triple and a homer in a game that he didn't start, joining Chris Taylor and some guy in 1961 whose name I don't remember, somebody I'd never heard of. So that's impressive. And I was already scheduling this live broadcast of the podcast. I guess it's not a broadcast, it's a podcast. Whatever it is, I was already typing up the description when Heyward hit the home run. So if you look at the description of this, there's and Jason Heyward just homered too. So I guess he contributed. So it was a good game for the offense, even though it was frustrating at times.
Yeah, good game for the offense. And, looking at the box score right now, the Dodgers have almost the whole lineup other than Chris Taylor. Everyone that batted yesterday is hitting over 200 officially now. So, we're trending upward. The bar is low right now for that bottom of the order. But, Pies comes through with an RBI single. Heyward comes through when he comes in. We'll talk about the Miguels right now. And Teoscar had a hit. So, this was the game that we expect. And this is now what we hope that we're going to get a little bit more of.
Yep. Well, speaking of Chris Taylor, I suspect his name will come up a time or two in the next segment when we're talking about Miguel Rojas and Miguel Vargas, who are both looking to get more playing time. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple clicks at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. Need help with an order? Get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free TradeMaster program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the TradeMaster program to deliver results. Apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/T-M. Save money and time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Hey, we're back. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. I want to thank all of you who are with us live right now, who enjoyed watching the Dodgers finish their sweep of the Mets this afternoon, and now making the rounds. I know a lot of you were over with Pete on the postcast over on Locked On Sports Los Angeles. He does that over there after most Dodger games. And lately, I think, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've only had one episode that wasn't live. There will be one more, but it's going to be a bonus episode. Tonight, I am recording a crossover episode with Paul Holden from Locked On Rockies. We'll probably post that Friday morning so you can watch it or listen to it before the Dodgers start their series with the Rockies. But we're still going to do a live mailbag episode tomorrow for our last episode of the week, besides the bonus. So you can check that out. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Subscribers help us out a lot, helps you remember to become an everydayer. We're all happier. And if you want to go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us, get our thoughts on things. We text to the group. You can text one-on-one. It's just a few bucks a month, free 14-day trial. So check that out. Miguel Rojas had 4 hits in this game. He did have a base running mistake that may have cost the Dodgers, ended an inning with the runner on third base and Miguel Vargas coming up. But Rojas had 4 hits, drove in some runs, looked really good, obviously played good defense. And Miguel Vargas had 1 hit, a walk, 2 runs scored, and should have had 2 walks. Luckily, the offense saved us from me having to use my second umpire rant this quickly after the last one. But Adrian Johnson, you are on my list. All in all, it worked out for the Dodgers, though. And the Miguels were a big part of the reason why. And we mentioned yesterday, Vince, Miguel Vargas, really, it seems like defense is the reason that he's not getting a lot of playing time, but he's played solid defense. He made a nice play in left field. I suspect a better left fielder would have made the play without it looking like as much of a nice play, but he made the play. He during the doubleheader, he had at least one play where he hustled to hold a guy to a single on what looked like it might have been a double. He's a good athlete. He's got a good arm. So all in all, if he can hit and he looks comfortable in the box. So if he's hitting, if the defense is even average in left field, the bat could keep him in the lineup,
Yeah. And it's all contingent on the bat. I think the defense is probably a reason, but when they called him up initially, Dave Roberts did say he's not here to be an everyday guy. He's going to get some starts. And at that point they were on a string of facing a bunch of right-handers. So that's also, when the right-hander is on the mound, Jason Heyward's going to get that start. And I don't know if they talked about Heyward playing some center because Pajas have been struggling, and that's how you get, Vargas into the game. You can move Teoscar over to right. So there's different ways that they can get him in. And now he's going to force that hand. If he's hitting, drawing walks, playing adequate defense, and, that's all the signs of him being at least getting the chance to show what he can do. And I think, it's hard not to root for him as just somebody that's seen him the last couple of years and, seen him up closest to, he's such a nice guy. He's really personable. He's, seemingly done everything. Dave Roberts has praised him for that too, working hard and, going from the guy that played infield to now having to play outfield and, not complaining outwardly if he does have complaints about everything that's gone on and, having a chance last year, then going down and, not getting discouraged, working harder to come back. It's all the makings of a good story, and hopefully he can keep hitting. And, it's one of those things where the bar is so low right now that he just has to hit a little bit in order for him to get more chances. And if he does that and continues to blossom, then, the Dodgers could have somebody that stays out there a little bit longer than they thought.
Yeah. And, Andy Pages with his struggles, last year it was around this time that Miguel Vargas got sent back to AAA because he wasn't hitting and wasn't fielding enough to justify. And that's kind of the difference, because Pages has been good defensively. But it might be a thing. Well, it's not a decision they have to make very soon, because Max Muncy hasn't even started swinging a bat yet, as far as we know. I think I saw that report. So he's not coming back anytime super soon. But even when he does, a lot of things can happen between now and then with Miguel Vargas. But you look at Chris Taylor, who is the black hole in the offense right now. When he is in the lineup, I know there's money concerns because he's signed beyond even this year. There's fan concerns because he is a fan favorite. I don't want the Dodgers to get rid of Chris Taylor. If they have to pay him anyway, keep him on the team one way or another, but figure out a way to do it without keeping him on the active roster, because it would make a lot more sense to keep guys who can hit on the roster than a guy who can't hit. I know that's basic, but that's kind of what it boils down to for me.
Yeah, if Muncy comes back and everyone else is healthy, I can't imagine Taylor lasts again. Like, it wouldn't, even with Pages struggling, it's still better than what Taylor's giving them, and defensively you're not losing anything. So it's hard to see. And another reason that is the next guy I want to talk about, which is Miguel Rojas, who, like you mentioned, had 4 hits, got played out of the RBI there. It was a weird call to stop him, or at least a cluttered call to stop him at the very least. Did get a swinging bunt single. So, it's one of those things, but he puts the ball in play. And if you would have told me how many at-bats Miguel Rojas had, I would have thought more than 81, but he has 81. But in those 81 at-bats, he's hitting 284 with the 790 OPS. And it's one of those where you try to figure out, okay, if we play him more, does that expose him more? And then we're in the same boat that we are now. But it's also a matter of the Dodgers have reached a point in this season, specifically with the bottom of the order, to where Dave Roberts can go to a hot hand. And, they've done it already. They kept Pages, they send down Outman. When guys have caught a little bit of fire, they usually try to get them in there more. And just the same way we talk about Miguel Vargas, being able to earn more at-bats, Miguel Rojas is there too. The one interesting thing with him, though, is that, well, I guess right now at third base, he can be more of a guy that plays third, because Lux is hitting a little bit better. Lux is over 200 now. He's been, at least showing that he's capable of being in there and being a contributor. So as of right now, third base is kind of open for that. Kike had a couple hits, but in general, Kike's not hitting as consistently as Rojas is, and
especially against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those where I want to see Rojas more, but then I also don't want it to be like, oh man, Rojas is just Rojas still.
Yeah, and he's not. If he plays more regularly, he's not going to hit this well. But like you said, he does put the ball in play, and that's something the Dodgers this year are lacking in. They are striking out in big situations where putting the ball in play, something can happen. It's not going to happen every time. It's not like he's going to hit a sac fly every time that he has a chance to, but you have a better chance at a sac fly if you hit the ball than if you don't hit the ball. And there's so much not hitting the ball that with Chris Taylor that I don't think he's going to come out of it. If there's a physical issue, okay, go get that fixed. But I think he's had enough time that we know, okay, he's not going to figure this out just by getting a couple of bats every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, and why I don't expect Taylor to last if Muncy comes back and everyone else is good, because you're stuck. You're stuck with, okay, we can't play him because he doesn't hit, but he also can't hit his way out of it if he's not getting at bats. And I do think he just needs a reset. And obviously they can't just send him down, so the reset would have to come in the form of, okay, your wrist hurts, you're going to go to Arizona, work on your swing, get some at bats there, and then do a rehab assignment, and then we'll evaluate you from there. And that's really what it's coming down to. And again, as we always say, he might last again. Someone else might go down when Muncy comes back, but hopefully not, because right now, I want to see all the guys on the roster besides Taylor get their chances and see what they can do, because they do need to see it right now. They got about a month, I think, before they really start evaluating and say, okay, what do we need to go get? And, if you give Miguel Vargas a month and Paez a month and, Lux one more month and see what they do, then you have a better understanding of, okay, we need to go get an outfielder, or we need to go get it, somebody that can hit regardless of it. And they're going to need that anyways, but at least you have a better idea of how much you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, offense had a great game. A lot of contributors, 16 hits. They had 16 hits. I'm just looking at the box score right now. 16 hits and 4 walks. We'll take 20 base runners, and usually you're going to score about 10 runs if you get 20 base runners. So that was good. The pitching, the plan was weird, and one reliever almost ruined it, but all in all, they ended up getting the job done. This series, pitchers who will be on the roster on Friday allowed 2 runs in 28 innings. The other guy who won't be on the roster anymore on Friday, we're going to dig into him a little bit and the James Paxton plan. So thanks again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 free to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. For example, like the Dodgers don't play tomorrow, so we don't have any fun Dodgers-related odds to look at for tomorrow, but full season odds, I was looking at the World Series odds right now. The Dodgers are still the favorites on FanDuel to win the World Series. They're at plus 260. Yankees are next at plus 500. So the Dodgers are like easily the favorites to win the World Series. So think about it this way. Make a bet that you're confident about. Put $5 on it. Get your $150. Put that $150 on the Dodgers to win the World Series. That's a free bet, and plus 260. There's still a lot of money to be made on that one, and you can use your bonus bet to do it. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, we're back. Thanks again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially thanks to those of you who are with us every day and those of you who are with us live right now as we're speaking. Become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. Make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Be sure to become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. And remember, you can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. So James Paxton started this game, went 3 innings, and after the 3rd inning, they showed him in the dugout talking to the pitcher. I think it was Connor McGinnis who they showed him talking to, and it was clear that he was done. Yohan Ramirez was warming up in the bullpen. Yohan Ramirez gives people some anxiety because his last 2 appearances have been really ugly. This time he was really good, but the guy who came after him was Elieser Hernandez, who, as I mentioned last time he pitched, well over almost 60% of the runs he has allowed in his career have come on home runs. That number went up a little bit. He allowed 3 runs today. Only 2 of them came on a home run. He faced 3 batters. All 3 of them scored. The only runs the Mets scored in this game were the 3 guys who faced Elieser Hernandez. And let's talk about Elieser Hernandez, and then we'll dig more into the Paxton decision. Evan Phillips is most likely coming back on Friday when the Dodgers start their series against the Rockies. Seems to me, which is a little bit weird because Yohan Ramirez was the obvious choice, but Elieser Hernandez seems like the obvious choice at this point to say, you know what, you're just not a major league pitcher.
Yeah, they don't need the length that he provides when he's giving up runs and giving up home runs at that, like not even giving a chance. So you had talked about when we didn't even bring up the name the first time when he made that spot start, and it was because we thought, maybe they wanted to get an extended look at him, or he had the stuff to at least stick around, and we didn't want to get into the DFA game with him. But I think we reached that point, and it's one of those where he hasn't pitched well enough to...
He ain't getting claimed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those, maybe it works itself out. Maybe he stays in the organization. Maybe they do keep working on him. But yeah, and the thing with Yohan Ramirez is the stuff is good, but it's the command and control, obviously, that is not good. He's looked better the last couple times out, and maybe the hook from Dave Roberts will be the savior for him. Obviously, I don't think that's too much, but the very least, he's looking better as of late. The stuff plays, and he's more of a reliever type where I feel you could use him a couple days in a row, whatever the case, and you don't feel tied to him. Where Elieser, they've been using him as a reliever, but I don't know if his stuff really plays up as a reliever. And when you're giving up home runs, if you're going 6 innings, giving up a couple home runs, you can get away with it a little bit more. When you're giving up home runs and you're only going 1 inning, it's not really the way to stay on a team.
Yeah, I think the plan for him was to go 2 or 3 innings in this game. Instead, he got 3 batters because they said, "Oh yeah, he's bad," and it looked like it might backfire. Even though the Dodgers came into this with basically 7 relievers, I assume everybody except Alex Vesia was available. I'm trying to think, did any? I know Hudson didn't pitch. Let's see, they used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, they used everybody except for Vesia and Hudson out of the bullpen. At one point, our buddy Kevin at Blue Goon 82 was tweeting at me, and when it was 3-3 going into the 8th inning, he's like, "Now we're going to go to extra innings, and they're not going to have anybody." And Ryan Yarbrough could have given them some length in extra innings. They could have gotten through at least 11 innings. I assume Yarbrough could have gone at least 1 more than he did, and then plus Daniel Hudson. But yeah, it almost backfired. But after the game, James Paxton talking to the media, he said he was told after his last start, like right after his last start, next one's going to be a short one for you. He was specifically told 50 to 60 pitches. They changed his in between starts routine, said throw your bullpen on this day instead. And so he referred to it as a long-term play, and Paxton was totally on board with it. You could tell. And he did say that, I felt great, but he was part of this plan. This wasn't something that was sprung on him. He was part of the plan, and he recognizes that he has an injury history. This was definitely an example of the Dodgers looking at the long-term. Let's try to keep James Paxton healthy for the whole season. But I also wonder if there's a little bit of Bobby Miller's coming back soon. Let's see how James Paxton functions as a 3-inning reliever type guy,
Yeah, it felt weirder in the moment because we weren't privy to it, which, we don't. Dave Roberts is not going to say that Paxton's only went 50 pitches before the game, and especially if he's not specifically asked about it. So it makes sense. The 4 days resting, he's one of the only guys that's gone on 4 days rest, and whatever. I agree with that, all that. The fact that it didn't quite work out because, Elieser Hernandez didn't pitch very well makes it also a little bit more like, man. But again, with the day off the next day, you can get away with using your bullpen a little bit more. And yeah, maybe, whatever the case. But yeah, I think, for Dan, I saw him ask it earlier about Grover, Yarbrough. I think the plan was, okay, we're winning 3-0. Let's go to Elieser Hernandez, try to steal 2 or 3 innings, and then save our better relievers for the end of the game. And I think it just didn't go well. And I think, sometimes that happens. I
also think Grove is a 1-inning reliever right now, so he's not really a long relief option. Yeah. And when part of the point of not saying publicly that Paxton's only throwing 50 pitches is so that the Mets will build their lineup to face a left-handed pitcher. And so you don't necessarily want to go to Yarbrough immediately because their lineup is built for a left-handed pitcher. So I think the plan was probably, let's go Paxton for 3 or 4 innings, and then Elieser Hernandez for a couple innings, and then go to Yarbrough after they've used some pinch hitters against got in. Who did they end up bringing in? They brought in Brett Beatty earlier than they wanted to because Pete Alonso got hurt. I feel like there's another guy that they used as a pinch hitter, a lefty.
But they brought in Nimmo.
Oh, that's right. They brought in Nimmo. He pinch hit. So, I think the plan was get 3 or 4 innings from what's his name? The starter, Paxton, and then bring in Hernandez to throw a few innings, have them pinch hit with Beatty and Nimmo, get those guys in lineup, then bring in Yarbrough, and you've got the lefty matchup again. So once this is one of those decisions where I don't necessarily expect people to agree with it, but it makes sense what they were doing. And I told Kevin on Twitter, I'm like, well, I'm not going to judge the thought process until I know what the thought process was. And now that I know what the thought process was, it's like, yeah, I don't know if I would have done that. But I also think there's a reason that I'm not a major league manager, and or a pitching coach, and Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor are. They're coming up with these plans, and they are much more intimately familiar with Paxton's health. They're more familiar with what their plans are when Bobby Miller comes back. All those things go into it. And really the problem here was that Elieser Hernandez sucked. And it's not like that was a shock to us, but I don't think anybody expected him to come in and face 3 batters and let all 3 of them score.
The Mets offense hasn't necessarily been blistering the ball, even if it's bad pitchers. So
especially after watching Yohan Ramirez the previous inning pitch a great inning. It's okay. Well, maybe the Mets are bad enough that they can turn lots of guys into good pitchers.
Yeah. So again, we can't speak in certainties when we don't know what the plan is, especially, when it comes to anything. But that's one reason I don't like to speak in certainties when there's things going on during the game. The main question for us, which when Paxton first came out, was, even though we saw the conversation, like, we don't know if that conversation was, oh, I felt something and maybe I should come out, or if it was, hey, you know what, there's your 50 pitches. We don't want to put you out there another inning. There it goes, whatever. Because Paxton, is a big sweater, as we've seen the last 2 games out there in the humidity. And, it's very easily to cramp up or something like that in that game. And, we don't know. And, whatever the case is, we don't need to know. We know after the fact, and now we can talk about it.
And if your hard limit was 60 pitches, you're not going to send him out there at 50 pitches, knowing that Yohan Ramirez is the next guy in line, because then you run the risk of, hey, Yohan, it's runner on first, 1 out. Come get us out of this, And Yohan Ramirez has shown that that's not what he's especially adept at doing right now. So give him a clean inning, all that stuff. Yeah, I feel like it's hard to quibble too much with the way they handled this once you accept the decision they made to go with the short start for Paxton.
Yeah. It worked out at the end. So
because of the offense, because Shohei Ohtani and Will Smith and Jason Heyward and Miguel Rojas and Miguel Vargas and everybody else. It was a great game for the Dodgers. They boomed.
Yeah, they boomed. They got 10 runs. You saw home runs. Now they get a day off. They get the Rockies, who we haven't played so far yet this season, and hopefully, and not at Coors. So hopefully, it's a nice little primer before they go out and head back to New York. Yeah.
I also saw, I think this is right, I haven't confirmed, but I think it was somebody in the chat on Pete's postcast, said that the Padres, D-backs, and Giants all lost today. So the Dodgers picked a game back up on all 3 of those teams, but I think puts them 6.5 up on the Padres and the Giants. So that's good. Hopefully the offense will enjoy the day off and then do some more booming against the Rockies this weekend. I know there's one grumpy Gus here in the chat who says it's just the Mets, and this weekend it'll be just the Rockies, but the Mets and the Rockies are the teams on the schedule. Yeah. You know what? I'll take wins over the teams on the schedule over hypothetical losses against teams they weren't actually playing. So that'll do it for us today. Like we said, we'll have a mailbag episode tomorrow and then a bonus crossover episode with Paul from Locked On Rockies sometime on Friday before the game starts. We'll have that for you. You can, what do I got to say? Oh, thanks to all of us who are everydayers, all of you who are everydayers. We're everydayers for sure. You can become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. You can make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, 224/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Both of our DMs are open over there. You can also send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to listen. You don't have to agree. You do have to listen. You don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.